Welcome back to my channel, Melanated Gods of Earth. Brothers and sisters, I'm your host, MODISE The High King. And if you're new, Royal Bloodline, and you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do that thing. Let other like-minded souls know that we're out here with the like and the share. And let the algorithm know what's good. And I'll appreciate you, Royal Family. Today's video, though, I want to have a conversation with you about the current state of decline that is affecting Western powers. As you know, the enemy is in his final days. All the karma they have racked up over the centuries is catching up to them. Indeed, it is not looking pretty. The dark age is upon them, brothers and sisters. Whatever struggles we will face in the years to come, we won't have to fight them forever and ever. Rome falls again. We talk about that a lot on this channel, signs of the decline of Western powers. Their declining birth rates, their energy crisis that's coming for them because they don't have mineral resources. They don't have energy resources. They have to rely on Africa to sustain themselves, as always. We discuss that a lot on this page, yes. Today, though, the one thing that they always say is that the development of Africa is a challenge. The development of Africa is a problem for them. We as a people, as much as we have been facing underdevelopment over the centuries, it turns out that there were actual lines, there were silver linings. There were silver linings to the chaos. Africa is rising, Africa is emancipating. We are the youngest population on the world. Our birth rates are the highest. Our mineral resources are just glory. Everything that we can do and achieve for ourselves as on the continent and in the diaspora for the people. What our ancestors went through, what their descendants continue to suffer. We are where we are. We develop, we farm, we mine, everything is organic, everything is clean, and we can take advantage of the best of the modern day technology to avoid the mistakes of the Western civilization. I will be sharing with you some evidence that I came upon earlier today that further attributes to the deterioration of their lifestyles, their living conditions. Things are just looking bad over there. The dark age has come to the West. So let us just have a quick look-see of what the future holds for those of us on the continent and in the diaspora, right? When you invest in the motherland, when we invest in ourselves, these are the things that we can do. We take advantage of our mineral resources to develop our own technology. We take advantage of the blessings that were granted to us. But the darkness that is coming for the West is unlike anything that they have ever known ever. Let's get into today's video. Britain plunges into low IQ chaos. What in the world does that even mean? Right next to that, royal family. But before we continue with that though, let's pay close attention to some of the things that underlie their everyday problems. Never mind what they complain about needing Africa's resources. Never mind what they complain about needing to green energy transition for whatever purpose. I mean, they need to green energy transition. It turns out the Industrial Revolution had consequences. 400 years of exploiting our resources and exploiting our flesh and blood to build their civilization, and this is what it's all come down to. You're facing a severe health crisis. The first time I heard about something like this was following the forest fires that devastated Australia. The health issues that people suffered there. The forest fires that are devastating the United States, devastating Canada right now. The health problems that will face those people, and the fact that Europe is the older power in the Industrial Revolution, and therefore
Europe is in the throes of a severe public health crisis. A report in The Guardian reveals that the continent is battling dangerous levels of air pollution. Inhaling toxic air emerges as a huge health concern in the region now. According to experts, over 98% of Europeans are breathing dangerously polluted air, which is also responsible for 1 million stillbirths every year. According to experts, the measurement to understand the pollution level is called particulate matter 2.5. Particulate matter 2.5. These are tiny airborne particles mostly produced from burning of fossil fuels. These particles are invisible to the naked eye and small enough to pass through the lungs and into the bloodstream as well. A growing body of research shows that these particulates are responsible for a range of health problems like heart disease, asthma, and low birth weight. Unhealthy levels like in Europe can also reduce visibility and cause the air to appear hazy. Now, the current WHO guidelines state that annual average concentration of PM 2.5 should not exceed 5 micrograms. However, as per the new analysis, only 2% of the population of Europe live in areas within that limit. To better understand the gravity of the situation, let us look at the map first. There you have it on your screen. Air pollution levels in Eastern Europe are significantly worse than in Western Europe. Almost all residents in 7 Eastern European countries breathe in close to double the polluted air than what WHO guidelines allow. From Poland, Slovakia, Romania, North Macedonia, Serbia, Albania, all of them, air is much worse. Out of these countries are the worst affected, which are lying on the east. Air pollution has become a key issue in Europe. Last week, European Parliament voted to adopt the WHO guidelines of PM 2.5 by 2035. The law, if finalized, will set a legal binding limit for annual PM 2.5 concentration.
Family, did you catch that? Did you catch those details, Bloodline? Royal family? Let us review it one more time, but focusing specifically on the part that is evidence that indeed everything that is Western culture, Western civilization is imploding in the worst ways all at once, all at the same time. Bro, if your economy is ruthless because of the cost of living crisis, if the shelves are looking empty because you have no resources and you have screwed over everyone who would give you a fair deal, and if you have no future prospects, because Africa is emancipating itself, we're not about to sell you our resources. Our leaders have been announcing for some time now that enough is enough. The jig is up. The game is over.
Every year. According to experts, the measurement to understand the pollution level is called particulate matter 2.
That's the stuff that keeps getting released into the atmosphere every time these forest fires devastate Western nations. Every time white people think that they can live in these areas and breathe that air for so long, all the way to the point where their own children start to have breathing issues and have to require breathing apparatuses for the rest of their lives. Pregnant women are said to be giving birth or with placentas or what have you that look like they are chain smokers, even though they've never smoked a day in their life. Because they spent a couple of weeks in regions that were being devastated by forest fires. Melanated people, please get as far away from these areas as possible. Do not breathe those toxins. And I can only hope that your melanin will protect you, because you know it's rehabilitation, it's regenerative. Outside of that though, if Europe itself is on the brunt, is feeling the brunt of their 400 years of industrial revolution, 200 years of industrial revolution. Generations of breathing toxic atmospheres, generations of engaging in toxic chemistries, as they have kept these some of these technologies to themselves. They were on the receiving end of the first lessons we had to learn, or they had to learn the hard way, that some things are toxic, and so they banned those products. So on a certain level, as much as we as Africans are underdeveloped and as black people on the continent in the diaspora are underdeveloped, the fact that they kept these technologies and things to themselves for so long meant that they intoxified their own bodies, they intoxified their own atmospheres. So surely we Africans have no business going over there to Europe, breathing in that air. It's disgusting. And I made a joke about it on TikTok. I cannot believe everything is coming to light. I think I will share that clip in a minute. But
2.5, particulate matter 2.5. These are tiny airborne particles mostly produced from burning of fossil fuels.
look at all that smog.
These particles are invisible to the naked eye and small enough to pass through the lungs and into the bloodstream as well. A growing body of research shows that these particulates are responsible for a range of health problems like heart disease, asthma, and low birth weight. Unhealthy levels like in Europe can be
1 million stillbirths a year?
concern in the region now. According to experts, over 98% of Europeans are breathing dangerously polluted.
Hold up.
A report in The Guardian reveals that the continent is battling dangerous levels of air pollution. Inhaling toxic air emerges as a huge health concern in the region now. According to experts, over 98% of Europeans are breathing dangerously polluted air, which is
98% of all Europeans are breathing in toxic air. For how long now? I had heard stories of the birthing challenges they face. Their children being born with like hearts on the outside and all manner of conditions. Now, as much as humanity in general faces all kinds of biological issues here and there every so often, for those issues to happen because you thought you were a genius in your civilization, you thought you were the ish. The chickens are coming home to roost, family. Karma is chasing after them hard. It's ruthless, it's unapologetic, it's vicious. Lords.
also responsible for 1 million stillbirths every year.
1 million stillbirths every year. Already they're a global minority, people. So if they are experiencing these health issues across Europe, bet money they're experiencing these health issues across Australia, bet money they're going to be experiencing these health issues across the Canadas. Recently in New York, when they were living under that smoke for all those weeks, I can only imagine the tragedy.
According to experts, the measurement to understand the pollution level.
Wicked stuff, Bloodline, wicked stuff. Now, this person on TikTok, let me see if I can share it real quick, had attempted to kind of make an insult against me, but you know, we clapped back. I clapped back, I made a little joke of my own. Let me see if I can share that clip real quick. So he had said to me, that nose is 90% of your face, Christ almighty. Because you know they love to make jokes about our black features, our very afro features. Verify to continue. Okay, because I'm not logged in or something, whatever. Well, the universe blessed me with a big nose. And this is what I said to him. The universe blessed me with a big nose in order to breathe up all the white man's air, so you have none. Apparently you've been poisoning it for too long, and you are unworthy of all this oxygen. So I've been tasked by higher powers than you will understand, you and your tiny little Christ almighty. People starve themselves to unalivement waiting for your Christ. Facts. I don't take him seriously. I don't take you seriously. I consider myself at war with your Vatican powers. So, like I said it. If in a single breath, I can rob you of all that oxygen you are unworthy of, I will. Breathing up all the white man's air? That's more than any reparations. Believe. Now all this gunk and junk you've been pumping to the atmosphere, that's for you. You breathe that. I could not predict. The universe blessed me with. I suppose I could have. And I suppose I did. I did predict it. But here we are. Here they are, suffering the consequences of all their genius, their civilization. To continue on more health issues that are afflicting Europeans, peoples of European descent in these countries, London, for example, one more sign of the decline of Western Empire is a lowering of the IQ, which means what? The dumbing down of a population, the loss of everything that they held to be true about their intelligence. Imagine slowly but surely seeing each generation become a Neanderthal for real. You'll be, bro, I don't even know what to say about that. Ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
Let me just continue let me just start the video and let us continue. Health issues, cognitive decline.
And welcome to this edition of A Quick Pipe. So, the collapse of international aviation, the collapse of aviation into chaos. What is going on? Why has this happened? Why has this been allowed to happen? It seems to me fairly obvious that in a society of declining IQ, we are an increasingly over-promoted society. People are doing jobs that they are less and less intelligent, less and less able to do, with the result that more and more things will go wrong. More and more things will go wrong. And in a complex system, which is highly fragile, it just takes one little thing to go wrong for the whole system to unravel, and that is what we saw on Monday. We saw at 8 a.m. it was already known in the UK that there was a problem with their flight registering computer system, where the information was conveyed to air traffic control. It was okay. There was information in the system for a few hours, but by the afternoon, no information could be put into the system automatically. The technology had broken down. The artificial intelligence, if you like, had broken down. And by the end of the day, you had complete and utter mayhem, 1,000 flights grounded, 200 flights cancelled, 200,000 passengers in the wrong place, and all that does for logistics.
Now, there's a phrase that I use all the time. I don't know where it came from, who said it first. It goes like this. If you immediately know the candlelight is fire, and the meal was cooked a long time ago. What does that mean? If you recognize something for what it is immediately, then trust it's not something that started yesterday, not something that started, last year or 10 years ago. Something that started a long time ago, and it's been cooking this whole time. It's been cooking. The meal has been getting ready, and now it's time for them to eat whatever slob they've come up with. At the same time, it has other positive implications, as in, when you recognize your talents as being ancestral in nature, then you know that whoever you are as a present day being has been something that has been a long time coming. Our ancestors set us on a trajectory to rise and rise. Since colonialism or slavery ended, we've been doing nothing but fight these people. We've been fighting, we've been emancipating, we've been resisting. Generation after generation, we've just been getting more intelligent, more active. Now we dominate in the sports field, we dominate in the academics, we dominate in politics, we dominate everywhere. Melanated peoples dominate. And it's only getting more. With the growth of African populations, melanated populations.
Now, as we understand it, the cause of this, they're not sure yet, but the cause of this was one single French airline incorrectly filing one travel plan.
Wow.
And that was what destroyed everything. One small mistake, presumably by one person, by one individual. And this threw us back to the 1990s.
What?
Within hours.
Whoa! I should have finished this video before I recorded it. Wow. Wow, family. They are literally unraveling. Their empires are collapsing. They are literally sliding into the dark age at the speed of light. Their populations are dumbing down into caveman intelligence. Their physiology is breaking down. Their health is breaking down. They have no resources to come back from this. It's just going to be a steady and brutal decline into oblivion. At this point, we're no longer even just sharing knowledge for sharing knowledge's sake. We're just observing, and I appreciate you for observing with me. If you haven't subscribed already, family, make sure you do that thing so we can continue paying close attention to these things. As they slide down into devastation, we as African peoples rise. We embrace our heritage. We take our rightful place as rulers of this world. The first man and woman, we are going to be the last.
Meaning that everything had to be done manually, programmed in manually, which of course slowed everything down to an extent that the airport is no longer built and the whole system is no longer built to be able to deal with. There aren't enough people to be able to input all this stuff manually, and the result is total chaos. Now,
not enough people, as in they've been experiencing a population decline as well. For so long, Europeans have not been having babies, and I'm not just saying Europeans specifically, but all European peoples. They haven't been birthing enough children. They haven't been planning for the possibility of a future where less people enter the workforce, and therefore less people are able to sustain the economy through taxes and all those things, and therefore more people now are on the verge of retirement. So there are way more old people across these nations than there are the young. And so their economies are beginning to unravel. Worker shortage. It's real. Economic consequences of worker shortage and low birth rates, with a health crisis and an IQ crisis, mineral crisis, everything crisis. There's a show called Foundation. You should guys check it out.
this is highly predictable in terms of the kind of research that myself and Michael Woodley of Mani looked at in our book, At Our Wits' End, Why We're Becoming Less Intelligent and What It Means for the Future.
My God.
If IQ is going down, if we are becoming less intelligent, and we know that we are, we have lost 15 IQ points based on reaction times between 1880 and the year 2000, and there is currently a weak negative correlation between intelligence and how many children you have, and the prevalence of alleles in the population associated with intelligence is in decline. We are becoming less intelligent for genetic reasons. Then what you have is more and more people making more and more stupid mistakes. What you also have is intelligent people boiling off and not really breeding, and so therefore an over.
What did I just say? They are becoming cavemen for real, Neanderthals for real, dumb creatures, drooling, cannot recognize, cannot read or write. Apparently. Anyway, let's just continue with this. But peoples in certain countries are struggling to read even. Across the Americas, across London. And you would think that perhaps it was the consequences of the pandemic, right? Slowed down everything for everyone. But beyond that, genetic breakdown. 400 years of white supremacist ideology.
Promoted society where it
has wreaked havoc on their genetics, insisting that they remain pure. Has wreaked havoc on their genetics. And now everything's unraveling before our very eyes.
Each generation we become slightly less intelligent. Perhaps we are losing as much as 1 point every decade over the following years. So you get more and more and more little mistakes being made. Now,
so the masses are not intelligent, and the intelligent ones are not breeding.
System becomes more complicated, and what we have with our system of air traffic control and so forth is an incredibly complicated technological system. It also becomes much more fragile, and as it becomes more fragile, it becomes more open to things going wrong and more open to little things, tiny little things, as it becomes incredibly complex, destroying the whole system. And as it becomes more fragile, it's becoming more fragile at the exact same time in which people are becoming less and less intelligent.
And the same time that Africa is rising, so no more resources for y'all. How are you gonna... This dark age is gonna be worse than the last one that they had.
And people are, as they become less intelligent, are more likely to make mistakes and are more likely, therefore, to undermine and destroy a complex yet fragile system, which then has enormous consequences because so much of the population is reliant on this incredibly complex yet fragile system, and they have stopped using. There's decreasingly a backup. They have got rid of the infrastructure of the less fragile and less complex system, i.e. putting things in manually. It's not like once the technology broke down, they had an army of people on standby that could manually put in the information and keep the system going. No. They'd all been fired 30 years ago, 25 years ago. No, there was not enough people to deal with it. There was no backup, with the result that you end up with total chaos. Now, a lot of people say to me, oh, we don't have to worry about the fall of civilization. Technology will save us. Technology will save us. AI will save us. Well, that's all well and good. But if AI is and technology is a complex system, and that's a fragile system, then ultimately it requires a certain level of intelligence to ensure that nothing goes wrong in this fragile system, and to ensure that when it does go wrong in this fragile system, then you have highly intelligent IT people that can come in and fix it, and can fix it extremely quickly. But they weren't able to do that. They were floundering. They weren't able to fix. They didn't know what was going on. They weren't able to fix it. They weren't able to fix it quick enough. You can say, oh, well, technology can fix itself. Well, we're nowhere near that being able to occur yet. We're at the stage in which we have all this complex technology, but ultimately it's not perfect and things can go wrong. And when they do go wrong, because it's so complicated and because it's so fragile, then the consequences are absolutely abysmal and appalling, and we are in a situation where those that would be there the humans that are needed to maintain the technology are becoming less and less intelligent, such that eventually, of course, they won't be able to maintain the technology, and one day something will go wrong and we won't be able to fix it for such a long time that it will have very serious consequences.
De-evolution in real time. What? Did you ever imagine you would live in such an era? Royal family, melanated gods of earth, African peoples on the continents in the diaspora, first man and first woman. Did you ever think you would live in a time to witness the enemy de-evolve as a consequence of his own lifestyle into a simple creature? This is wild. I half expected that it was going to be just an aging population and a decline of economic hardships. A decline of the economy leading to more everyday hardships, as far as their refusal to pay reparations, their refusal to acknowledge their crimes, and the fact that they could have repaired relationships with certain nations and we would have been happy to sign deals, trade deals and all those things, but they invested so much in making sure that we were artificially underdeveloped. 400 years, 500 years of exploiting our people, exploiting our motherland to keep themselves alive, and what they've done with their time: burn the world, intoxify the oceans, intoxify the air, live like a bunch of creatures who thought that their glory was never going to end, and yet karma is just tearing through them, running through them like a train. Wow, family. I don't even know what to say at this point. It's just scary if you imagine what it means to be on the verge of de-evolution. So while we African peoples are getting faster and smarter in the sports field, in the classrooms, innovative, cultural expression, science, technology, we are rising and ascending, and they are literally, and I mean literally, descending into chaos and darkness. Exponential crises after crises after crises after crises, all the way to the silent end. Or at the very least, being slowly but surely being replaced, as they have no choice but to allow migrants from other countries to come through who are more intelligent, without even having to try, because they're that dumb at this point. This is wild, bro.
Next stage one can imagine is something that it will have very serious consequences. The next stage one can imagine is something like this happening again, but in far more serious circumstances and
high
far
frequency.
more serious extent, such that international air traffic is grounded for a very long time, such that you end up with planes falling out of the sky and people dying. And once that happens, then of course, with that level of incompetence, with that, then of course we lose confidence in air travel. In air travel.
Well, that's y'all. That's y'all.
And that's what civilizations do. That's what happens in the winter of civilization. You have a complex system, which is very, very fragile. You decreasingly have the intelligence to be able to solve the problems that fragile system, the unpredictable problems that fragile system will inevitably throw up, such that eventually the system either does not work anymore, we just can't sustain it, and people stop using it, or we just lose confidence in it, and so we can't sustain it, and so we stop using it, and so we move backwards. We move back to a more primitive level of civilization. That is what I see as the next step after this, that we lose confidence in air travel, probably because there will be one minor little mistake, just as there was with Concorde. And people can say, oh, well, we were wanting to stop Concorde anyway, it was expensive, whatever, fine. But it was one little mistake, one individual that put a bit of jagged, wrongly shaped metal on the back of the Airbus that then used the same runway as Concorde. The bit of metal fell off, Concorde went over it at high speed, Concorde was committed to flight, Concorde caught fire, Concorde crashed. It was one mistake by probably one individual who was basically over-promoted that caused that. And it's almost certainly one mistake by one over-promoted individual in a context in which we are decreasingly promoting on merit, but that's aside, that caused this. So I would see this as a fascinating portent of what is to come. In an IQ of decreasing intelligence quotient, where at the same time everything is becoming more complicated and therefore more fragile, you can expect more and more things to go wrong like this until we lose confidence potentially in air travel. And those that keep writing to me and saying, oh, technology will save us, we will go on, civilization will go on forever, egg and your face are in alignment.
Woo! Family, this was a horror movie. The horror. And the fact that he sees it and others like him see it coming and they know that it's too late. It's been too late. Oh my God. What would you do? What would you do if you knew for a fact that this was what the future held for you and your people? What would you do? Let me know in the comments below, royal family. It is no mystery that we as African peoples are beginning to dominate in every field. Next to our own genetics just being next level, you know what I mean? We are the ancients. And our ancient bloodline has remained. And as much as we have been through the most terrible periods of history, between the transatlantic slave trade, that was trans-Sahara slave trade, the Europeans and the Arabs butchering us on every level, confounding us every way they can. The fact that American students rely on Kenyan students in order to graduate, that's wild to me. With the whole cheating scandal, if you remember that. But here we are, family. Here we are. The world is changing. We, as an African peoples, must truly focus on ourselves. We must truly focus on the blessings that have been given to us. We must truly focus on the potential to do with our resources for ourselves and our people, and truly take our rightful place as the gods of these worlds, the gods of this world, and when we enter the age of space travel, because all the things that they dreamt about the future, they can no longer be a part of it. They are no longer going to be a part of it. They're going to be simple creatures. That's what I foresee for my grandchildren and their grandchildren. Let us keep on keeping on, real family. Let us keep on keeping on, real fam. It's our time now. This was a horror movie. It was a shock to me. The IQ thing, I should have seen it. The signs were there. But I never imagined. We make jokes about them being Neanderthals on TikTok all day long, but this is something wild. Measurable. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one, Royal Family. Stay royal, stay dangerous, stay divine. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.